Hey everybody, glad to be with you again. And we're going to be talking today about how to install a training culture in your business. And I'm very excited about another guest that we have on our show today here. And it's Sarah Geiselman. And she is a Beavercreek based master stylist, salon owner, and mentor whose love for hair started French braiding a Barbie at age 7. She trained across South Carolina, Ohio, and Texas, and even honed her skills giving impromptu haircuts in bar bathrooms before sharpening her craft in precision cutting and blonding while raising 2 kids as a single mom. And in 2018, she took a leap of faith, wrote the business plan, and opened a hybrid salon that develops both emerging and experienced stylists. She blends technical excellence with a natural gift for people, bringing psychology, creativity, and servant hearted leadership to every client and stylist she serves. And I don't think it could be said any better, Sarah. I'm glad you're with us today.
Thank you so much. That's what an intro.
Well, here's the thing, right? When you hear your bio, it often is like, did I do all that? Like, what, it's kind of like your life in a snapshot, right? Is what it is. And obviously we'll talk about your journey here as we get started, but there's a lot of twists and turns and learnings along the way that we all face. And um, Sarah, the reason I really wanted to bring you on about this was because I know when I first met you and learned about your salon and what you were doing, I was very intrigued because I think that so many salons would just simply rent booth space, collect a paycheck, from the stylist each month, and kind of let it be that. But you don't do that, right? And that's what intrigues me is you really have this heart for training and helping people get better, even as you're building your own clientele.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy how that all started actually. And it boils down to like we're not able to do this forever. Like this is really hard on your body, and if you're not taking care of your body, then you're definitely not going to be able to do it for longer periods of time as you get older. So I started by just taking students in from the career center when I was in a studio suite at the Green, and I was just in my own little personal space, and I had no idea what to expect on like what I should allow them to do or um the expectations that I had for them, but like that really started to help me to even set the tone of what I didn't even know was turning into the whole hybrid salon legacy idea. Like essentially that started to teach me how to like give them expectations and hopes, but also let them kind of lead and guide and like meeting them where they are too. So I don't know, it
Mhm.
just kind of evolved into something super crazy that it is a lot of work and it is super hard, but totally worth it. Actually, it's yeah.
Well, and part of my question, I guess, with you, and as we kind of, before we jump into the specifics of how you do things, is really, when you talk about, South Carolina, Ohio, Texas, like you've been in different places, you've learned along the way, starting even as a little girl, right? Just falling in love with this, but yet, did you have your own mentors along the way that kind of gave you this vision, or was this something that kind of like what inspired you to have this model?
Okay, so I never ever thought that I would have a salon. That was never really my dream was to have a salon. I've always just been very like, if it's not working for me, I'm gonna make something else work for me. So I kind of just kept collecting things along the way. But with hair and learning it in different areas. Like I learned a lot of ethnic hair in South Carolina and in Texas. Texas, it was like avant-garde type and more precision and fun. But then Ohio, when I came to finish school in Ohio, they wanted you to have a manager's license, which meant more school, and I was just no school. However, so when I finally got the hours that I was supposed to just graduate, I'm an outgoing person. So that's that's the hard teachable part in the hair industry is like people can be creative and want to do hair, but there's like a very personable thing that needs to be kind of within you or the desire to be able to have
Mhm.
conversations with people. So my first mentor experience, I guess I had to figure out how to get a model first to a big high-end salon in Columbus where they were doing you had to showcase to them like a haircut and just a whole package to them, and then they decided if you could go on their program. And then so I ended up finding some random girl at a party, and I took her to Columbus and she had a long haircut, and I had learned just like the basics through school. And then I kind of have evolved that over practicing on people for free. Um, but I really learned a lot of just like different vibes and how people were, I guess my mentor there in my first space, he poured into me, but also expected a lot out of me. So just kind of, you don't need the filler words. You need to just do as I say and like help me out, and you'll trust and you'll know why I'm putting this toner on. And took me out to lunch and just gave me extra tips. Like, so I started to learn how to like monetize more and gift
Mm,
more as I was taking more people under the wing, I guess.
mhm,
Um, and then I learned a lot about like blonding, shampooing, and blowouts after I had to leave that space in Columbus because I found out I was pregnant and it was just kind of a long drive and stuff. So I had to find something closer. And I really loved the Paul Mitchell like family vibe. And so I had a really cool mentor actually that I'm like kind of friends with still now. And she's came into the salon and has helped and just kind of allowed some of my students to like do color on her. And it's really cool to just be able to talk to those people still. Um, so blowouts are really important, and there's a patience part that comes to that, and there's a body positioning part that comes to that. And so really breaking down what I thought was intuitive, teaching that is really hard because I'm not a great like words person. I'm a good like doer, so sometimes I'll be like shifting the body and I'm like, okay, we're good, right? Because and I've had to learn how to just over explain more because
mhm,
there are very many different types of learning ways. So you
mhm,
have to kind of learn who your person is that you're training, first of all. But
mhm,
that's from what I learned from the second space. And then the third spot was like I was there for 5 years, and he really did technical precision cutting. And so I would just sit and watch him do kind of the same haircut over and over. And I wasn't even really allowed to add flair to it until I really learned what just the precision parts of the basic 5 to 6 haircuts were. And so I really like now have started to implement where your body positioning and your hands, but people will think it's really redundant because it really slows you down. And that's the frustrating part is people want to just go through a haircut like real fast and just be done with it. And I'm like, people keep coming back to me because I take my time. I know the structure. I know what's going to look good on you, based on how you want to style your hair, how you want to keep coming back for more, or those are the harder things to teach
mhm.
is people needing to slow down, pay attention, ask the right questions. But I've messed up a lot over time. Like what I also learned is like 9 hour color corrections don't need to happen if you have someone there telling you what you should do to condense it. So
Well, what I love
there's
what
so many
what I love what
factors.
yeah, but what I love what you're saying is, a lot of people would look at what you do and styling is art, and it is. But what you're also saying, there's a lot of mechanics to it and detail to it that, you to become really a pro, right? To be truly be a pro at what you're doing, it's a mixed skill set. It's artistry with the technical side of it. And I think that one of the things you said a couple minutes ago that really jumped out to me was, from a training standpoint at least, is learning the person you're training. Like, what is it that is going to connect with them to help with their learning style? Because I think that's huge. Is there's not really a one size fits all approach. And one of the things I talk a lot about to leaders is customizing your leadership to the person you're leading or to the team you're leading. And exactly what you were just saying is, hey, you've got to know your people, right? You need to know who you're training, and maybe it's interesting because a lot of people listening to this may say, well, this salon industry thing is so far out from what I would know, but and that may be true. But when it comes to other skill training, and whether it could be, financial, retail, industrial, whatever, it's still the same principle, right? Like, it doesn't really matter the industry you're in. It's when you're leading and training people, what you're talking about applies across all areas. So kind of tell us with this training culture, like, first of all, how do you define that? Like, how do you define a training culture inside your business specifically? Like, what does that mean from a cultural standpoint inside the business?
All right. So when you become when I became a leader and a salon owner, I had to learn how to like really look at myself and what I wanted for the salon. And so it made me do like branding and colors. And it was really cool to ask these questions, but there's always like a lot of noise in other lanes. So like you're like the comparison game. So I had to really just try to remember to not do that. That I had to continue to remember who I was and who I am. And then every time I would feel like I would do too much, I would just keep adding more to the plate when I'm like, I just need to really go back to where I am with what I'm doing right now and seeing what's working and what's not working. So with that, I had to invest in, well, first of all, I invested in like getting my whole website rebranded after I had done it myself. But I'm like, I just want to stay ahead of the game and I don't have the time to like do a whole
Hmm.
website again because there's so many different things. And then um I used a mentor to help me kind of like start having conversations with my staff and learning how to do, and because team meetings are really hard. It's hard to get everybody. So I had to start
Hmm.
learning how to just make time for them specifically, like 2 hours every quarter or something, just kind of pour into them, ask them questions, see where they're at in life. So that turned into me really wanting to let my stylist know how are you taking inventory of your life? Like what are the things that you're doing that are affecting like your pros and cons in life. So it's really important for like authenticity and growth and like your mindset, your comfort zones. Like people would tell me I'm not really comfortable doing that. I'm like, great. Well, that just means that I'm going to make you do that more so that you're not as uncomfortable.
I like to push you.
Especially when I know like you need to stand in front of someone in order to cut their hair or their bangs, like or blow dry. And if you're embarrassed to stand in front of them, like what are you even doing? So what I've learned is like if you ask enough questions in the beginning, then you'll learn very quickly if this is for you or not. So I've learned over the time, like it's not that it's a waste of time when you do things, but like really niching down on like what is the problem of like why people decide to stay or go. I'm like, why are you choosing to do hair? Why do you want to be here? So actually figuring out where people are and meeting them where they are and asking all of the questions, I think that's when they can decide that I'm right for them. I'm like, I'm a lot of personality. I'm going to make sure that I'm on you. Like, I don't want to micromanage, but I want you to know that, like, I'm here for you. Please communicate with me if there's something going on. Like, I want to support you. Um, but then, like, really having raw conversations with them when I'm noticing that they're not doing the things that I've been specific about, like, a few times. And that's when people kind of start to realize, like, either I'm not for them or this industry isn't for them because it's not easy.
Hmm. Well, it's interesting because even the premise of this show, my book, The Magnetic Leader, it's about, it really was inspired by John Maxwell's principle of law of magnetism and his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership of who you are is who you attract. And what I love what you're saying is you're having to filter early on because your culture is the culture you, as the owner and the creator of this business, have set. So it's not for everybody. Excuse me, it's not for everybody, and that's okay. But you need to make sure that I guess is clear on the upfront as much as possible. And then, like you said, over time, people might say, you know what, I thought it was, but it's not. And so I'm sure that there's probably been a lot of learning along the way of that as well. I mean, I'll ask you this question. I mean, have you hired somebody, brought somebody in, and you thought they're going to be great here, and then all of a sudden you realize this is just not a good fit?
So in the beginning, I think there was a lot of desperation to kind of just get people in, and then I really stretched myself like to kind of make them happy when it was kind of going out of like what I could really do. So yeah, I mean, there's been a few times where I've hired people, and then I've really stretched myself to past the point of stretching myself, and then I was not so in tune with what I wanted in my culture that I just kind of like snapped at the person for like the smallest, biggest, last thing. And I'm like, I know I had these conversations with you. Like, and why are you dressing like this? Because you know that the weather is doing these things. And I told you not to touch the temperature. And then you touch the temperature. And then you lie about touching the temperature. What are you doing? Um, and then, yeah, I mean, I have a soft heart for people. So then sometimes maybe I want to know a little bit more about them so that I can maybe give understanding for why certain beliefs and things that they're doing in the business is what's going to stretch me to like or more or not. Over 7 years, I have one that has stayed with me for 5 years. And I'm so thankful for her. And then now we just have like a more committed, like we are able to have more conversations and stuff. But hire slow, fire fast was what I was told.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
especially when you're not, like you said, you're not just throwing anybody in there to rent booth space, right? You want to make sure that it's the true culture fit for your vision. And I really think that's true is, once again, if you're just opening up a space where like anybody can rent a booth and do their own thing and whatever, you're not really building a team culture in that environment anyway. What you're building is something completely different. And so, yeah, it's very important that because it's that whole thing of one bad apple can spoil the bunch, as they say, right? Like you have to protect that culture once you've established it and defined it. And so let's pivot a little bit there of what, this sounds hard, right? Like when people are listening, like what you've chosen the harder path, but you've done that intentionally. So why is it that you said, you know what, I want to do this versus just simply because you got a nice space, you could rent out booths and you could do whatever, right? What what made you say I want to do that versus just being that place that you can rent out and it's a free for all?
Yeah. So my landlord was like, why don't you just like put a whole bunch of people in there and just charge them rent? I'm like, God, that sounds like chaos. Um, and I didn't realize until this, and I'm like, and there's a pendulum swing of like how far you can go into like boundaries and control and like learning what that is. And like sustainability is like my new phrase because and clarity. So clarity was my jam at the beginning of the year, and sustainability is that now. But it has always been like my heart for the younger, like newer stylists because I remember how ambitious I was,
Mhm.
how intuitive I thought, but also just like willing to kind of be there and oversaturate so that I could just get on the floor more quickly. And really, I was looking for a lot of that in some, but I had to really learn that some just do it a little bit slower. Um, it has been, it is hard and exhausting, especially when you feel like you come up with a plan, but then you have to reevaluate it once or twice a year to see if, that's not really working, that you need to like fine tune it. I know that I love doing hair, and I know that passing down what I have to offer is really important to me. And I created Legacy last year, and Legacy is a form of like, and where it actually started to, it was hard for me to decide on who wanted to be or who should be in the salon because it's like I was being foggy and like the gray area was like, I didn't know how to take people just leaving either because that people sometimes again are not going to stay for a while and that's okay. But Legacy has been like where they kind of invest in my short term, like speedy, hands on mentorship program. Um, but and I had like 3 or 4 great students with that, and it was amazing. So what that has even done for me is even people will like invest in themselves and still not really do the work.
Yep.
So um I this is my 7 years, and this is the year that I'm actually like saying no to a lot of things so that I can reassess like what I want for Bombshell. And the hybrid is still definitely a very big part of it. But I have moved my last 2 employees to booth rental, and so essentially like the industry is very like you don't really know what's going to happen, but it's important, and you don't know what the building's going to do. You don't know if I'm going to get in one of my moods and just not want to be here anymore because I am not claiming this, but commitment issues. But my goal basically is like I want someone to be able to do the things that I can do like on their own and know that they have resources.
Hmm.
So I don't like the control aspect of a lot of the big spas and salons where there used to be non-competes, and I had to have a non-compete when I was younger, and like that really pushed me past where I needed to live or whatever. But I don't want to have the control, and I want them to know that I can give them everything that they need to do it on their own. Kind of like parenting, I
Mm.
guess, is where my
Hmm.
heart in it is now. So I want to intentionally like make it more systematic instead of just having a whole bunch of a few trainees and beginners, because I want them to be able to I want them to be able to move into being able to take care of their own if this doesn't work out also. So they get, it's just communication is important, and that's the biggest part of this industry, I think, and the technical part. So they need to be able to communicate with their clients and how they can trust them and like the retail selling and stuff. So it's important for them to go full circle with it. And if they are not investing or thinking that it is their business, because that is what essentially made me want to be a better stylist and a better co person. Like if you go into the salon right now, like you don't really know who the owner is because everybody acts like an owner. And I just
Mm.
allow for that because they're their own boss babes. And I encourage that. And I can't do everybody's hair. So I want other people to be able to do that. That's what I want for them, is to continue to grow as their renters. So I want them to be able, I just want it to flow better. So
Mhm.
this year I am saying no to a lot of things so I can reassess and rebuild and actually say yes to what the hybrid should look like more systematically.
I love as I'm listening to you, Sarah, about this is there's a selflessness about this for sure because you're relinquishing control on one level so that the culture and the training side and helping people succeed and win is at a higher priority. And so you're recognizing and what I find interesting too is 7 years in, like you're talking, is you're recognizing some shifts or pivots that can help you be focused the way you need to be and to be better for everybody. And I think a lot of times leaders can get stuck in their way and go, well, we were successful this way, so therefore we're going to keep doing it that way forever. And yes, you have to be careful not to kind of cause whiplash and change things too fast or too much. But what I see you doing and hearing you doing, you're talking about here is you're being very intentional. You use that word. You're being intentional. You're trying to be strategic. You're looking at things from a different lens 7 years in versus there's a difference when you're in startup mode and just trying to get going, right? Like you're just like you said, you're just trying to fill seats and get people there and whatever. Now you are at a place where you're like, now we've have 7 years of experience under our belt. Let's make sure that this is truly happening the way that it needs to or I want to. And the other side of it, Sarah, and I think a lot of leaders are afraid of this, is you're saying, look, I'm going to train you, I'm going to help you, and guess what? I'm willing for you to go and do this elsewhere, right? Like I don't I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to empower you. And the crazy thing about that, right, that a lot of leaders miss, I think a lot of times is how by doing that, you actually create more of a stickiness and a commitment level and a loyalty by giving people that freedom.
Thank you. Oh, that's so great. The hype in the beginning is just not sustainable over time, that I'm finding. And like everybody is wanting to start these new salons, and there's salons popping up everywhere, and it's so fun and it's exciting. But like getting branding photos done once or twice a year is so much fun in the beginning, but like once you realize you got to keep up with it, like you plan for it differently. But it's always, people get real excited in the beginning,
Yeah.
and I want people to start understanding that it doesn't have to be like all or nothing, that we can be patient, that we can enjoy the process and not have to have such instant gratification, because that's not the reality, which is, not what culture or says, outside culture says. But that's just me learning through my own ADHD brain that it really matters to have the freedom in like the safe space, and
Mm.
to be able to like nurture that and know that you have people that'll support you when you're going through something hard, and that like you can ask everybody that is an individual how you're going to attack this one project, and you're not going to feel like judged or anything, like you
Mhm.
have the support because everybody truly cares about everybody's business. That's like the most important thing to me.
Well, I think a lot of it, and I love your self-awareness because you joke and about, yourself, and you don't take yourself too seriously, and you recognize your own challenges, but it's like I think that when we can see ourselves through the proper lens, right? When we understand who we are and our gifts, our abilities, our skill sets, our weaknesses, our gaps, right? Like when we know those things, we can be a better leader. And I think that, you and it's been fun, right? Because I've been able to watch you from the outside on one level while also getting to know you personally over the years. And I think that it's great to just this is genuinely you, right? Like this is your journey. I mean, what I love is your business is representative of your journey personally, and you're being very candid, you're being very authentic and real and saying, look, here's where I started, here's where we are, here's what I'm thinking moving forward. I bet if we had this same conversation a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, you're going to be able to say a lot of new things and say, you know what, I tried this, it didn't work, or I tried that and it was a home run, right? And here's where I am today. So I think that I hope people listening to this will say, you know what, I need to continually pay attention to me and my own growth journey, my own development, as much as or more even than the people I'm trying to develop, because the better you get, the better you can be that trainer and build that culture. So let's pivot here to saying what has been your biggest or some of your biggest challenges you faced as an entrepreneur?
Okay, so money.
Okay.
Our belief systems and attachments to money really need to be addressed in the beginning of trying to be your own boss. Because if you're used to like a frugal family, like super minimal, when you start accumulating more money and you don't have someone helping you, listen, mentorships and stewardships of money has been very hard for me because you're
Mm,
like woohoo in some areas and you're like okay well we can charge it and we can pay it back and we can get a line of credit and we can like but you don't realize what that's doing for you like so and like how all of the money comes in based on making sure that the pricing for your services are there but anyways okay so money. We'll just go with money has been a very
yeah.
I've had to learn how to manage and steward that well. Um for it working for you and not against you. And
Mm,
then maintaining or accepting that some individuals are only meant for a season and to be grateful and gracious with that period and purpose. So those were
mm,
probably like the biggest parts of me because I am such a people person and I'm normally the one that leaves. I am now in a space where people are like choosing to grow outside of what I've poured into and not taking it personal. Like
mhm.
those have been the hardest parts, I guess.
No, those are some deep things you just we could talk for hours on that stuff, Sarah. I mean, for real,
Uh,
like because you're
Bad
right.
enough that making money was a really good starter book for me. And then
Yeah.
like, oh, you mean that? Like, and really, it really evolves around like your beliefs in money. And then
Yeah.
making sure that you are saving, like Roth IRAs, they're very important. I didn't start until I was like 35, 36. And actually assessing your debt and why your debt is the way that it is, but also like making sure you know the lifestyle that you want to create for yourself so that you are like saving for that and not just spending.
Hmm.
And for your like taxes and
Yep.
everything it takes.
Well, what you're bringing up though is what a lot of people overlook about owning. They want to own the business because they think they want that freedom and control and they can do whatever. But then you realize that could be the worst decision if you're not ready for these things, like or able to adjust and learn quickly because it's one thing to show up and in your case cut and color hair all day and go home because you're renting a booth versus managing a business, paying the rent to the landlord, right? And making sure all the website, is being developed and all the bills, right? Like managing and owning that business is so different than working inside the business as an employee or a contracted, a stylist or whatever. So that's kind of a word of caution, folks, really is know what you're getting into, and you're never going to know everything. So I don't want to pretend that we do. But what you're saying, Sarah, is you had to learn some things that you didn't probably expect you were going to have to learn as you got going.
Here's what I know, Chris. This is what I know. If I knew now what I knew then, I don't know that I would have done it, but also I probably still would have done it because I was like, okay, I can learn all the things. But yeah, I am a very big advocate for know what you're getting yourself into, or at least have the faith that you can reassess and like do better throughout your seasons
Yeah.
because there's so much I had no idea. And
But
sometimes you just don't until you get into it, like motherhood. Like, I never planned to be a mom, but I'm a mom of two very wonderful kids. And I'm like, they're alive and we're doing good things. And like, great.
but you're right.
Sometimes,
I mean, but I love what you said there because I agree. I tell people all the time, like, if I would have known then what I know it took to do what I do now, would I don't know that I would have had the courage at the time, especially to do it. But what happens is you take that step of faith, you take that step into that future that you want, and you just have to have a growth mindset of I'm going to learn the things I need to learn. I tell the story all the time, like for years, like with my leadership coaching, I did not want to talk about marketing at all. I hated the word. I hated the idea. I just wanted to coach and help people and train them. But it was literally, and this was part of my faith journey. And I know you're a person of faith too. It's like God, I felt told me one day, like, Chris, the thing you're avoiding the most and hating the most is what you need to learn the most. And I
and
had
just
and
getting more
that hit me so hard that and I dove into marketing for about two years solid of just reading everything I could, learning everything I could. And it's funny now because I'll have people go, Chris, you have such a great marketing mind about this or that, and what do you think I should do? And I'm like, I laugh now because I know where I was, right? But then I sit there and go, okay, well, that's a skill set I had to learn. What's the next thing I'm avoiding or trying to avoid and resist? That's something to lean into. And I think as a business owner, thinking about what are the things I'm struggling with, don't let those struggles hold you back. Let those be a warning sign or an indicator that I need to lean into that. And like you said, if money's an issue, lean into the money. Let me learn how to be a better manager, steward of the resources I have. Let me learn about investment. Let me learn about doing this well. And so I love that you brought those things up, but let's look at the positive side. What have been your biggest wins or your most important lessons that you've learned in your journey?
um well, I get to learn about myself. And I get to learn about how to get rid of the things that don't serve me anymore, with mindsets. So I was gonna say, like, yeah, you invest in, like, I feel like there's seasons and cycles of like you kind of get brought to what really you need to invest in next. Like, in the beginning, I invested in like a bigger group for how to become a better stylist. That way I could teach other stylists how to be better stylists and just in those basic areas. And then I had to learn how to be a leadership, and then I had to surround myself with like peers that were in other areas. So then there was like a smaller group type force that I was in. And then it was the website, then it was my coaching, and now it's like me. Like, now I invested in like the 6 month long like emotional polarity therapy where it deals with my body and my mind so that I can have these
Mm,
like unstuck things. So I get to really like be around like my people in the salon and like share how to like get through like certain things, also just by listening and not trying to fix. So but my
mm,
biggest win that I said is basically like that I have a team right now that trusts and supports and communicates and is patient with me because they feel like they've received that from
mm,
me, so they can like give it back when I need it the most.
mm,
So that feels really good. um
mm,
Knowing that I push people out of their comfort zones to get them believing that they can do better if they really want to, or that they can figure out where that is for them. Like, having
mm,
really, when people like getting people to look more within, and then when I see that come out, like I said with my girl that's been there for 5 years with me, watching her blossom from like a quiet stylist, and I never heard her speak and it was so hard. She was so talented and like is so talented, and I love just watching the evolution of like the conversations that she can have, but also she can lean into being calm beauty,
Mhm.
and it's just really cool to watch. And even with the ones that have left that I've stayed in contact with, like it's cool to see like what they're doing, and even
Mhm.
just the questions that I asked, they decided not to do this industry. Like I think if you do the like me pushing other people and seeing where they are has been a really big win, I guess, because it allows me to embrace my boldness.
Mhm.
And yeah.
That's awesome. No, what I love, and and a couple things you said. One was the seasonal thing, right? Like knowing the season you're in, knowing that life and business comes and goes in seasons is critical. Um, the other thing I think that you were talking about that's so important is taking care of yourself because, like you said, investing in yourself right now is huge for you. And I think a lot of leaders put themselves on the back burner for the sake of, you know, keeping up with the business or life in general. I mean, like you said, you're a single mom with two kids. Okay, well, family and business can take all your time, right? If you're not careful. And so I think that as leaders, if we want to be better for our people, we have to be better for ourselves and with ourselves too. And I always say it doesn't end with you, but it has to start with you as a leader. And what I feel like you're doing here, hear you saying here is there are things you realize you needed some help with. You needed to invest in yourself and figure some things out. And through doing that, now you can now enter your space with your stylists in a whole different way that now is going to benefit them. So your investment in you has this rippling, cascading effect into others. And I just hope leaders understand like the reason, like I know for myself, the reason I love to read and learn so much is yes, it's for me because I'm hungry and I want to be a growing student of everything. But it's also crazy. Like when I'm reading, when I'm learning something, all of a sudden people start popping into my mind. And I'm like, you know what? This person would really benefit from this book or from this podcast or from this, seminar, whatever. And even as you were talking about the money thing, I actually ordered a book today, Sarah, and it's called Live Life Rich. And I'll read it and I will give you a review of it. But I think it's going to be really good because it's designed by a financial advisor but it's designed for business owners, and it's how do you manage your money well so that you can truly experience the freedom as a entrepreneur. And a friend of mine introduced me to the book, and I knew the author from a distance, but I'm excited to read it. But as you were mentioning that, I'm like, you know what, that might be a great book that Sarah could benefit from, but I kind of like to go first and find resources and share those things. You're doing the same thing by investing in yourself, learning for you so that you can pour that into others. And so I think that's so huge for leaders is go first. Be the one to go first, and then you can be a better resource for those you're leading. So last question here. If you were talking to a business owner who is struggling to train people well, what would you say to them?
Okay, so and to finish up like what you were saying, I knew from the beginning of starting the salon that I wanted to be able to like do as I do, not a do as I say type
Mhm,
mentality. And I'm like, if I'm expecting to be able to do these certain things, I need to be able to do them in my life. And so I wanted to make it very like congruent. And it's
mhm,
taken a while to get there. But um with with being an entrepreneur, have patience, assess yourself first, and then how are you staying on top of your values and your culture, or are you abandoning for fear of rejection and not holding people accountable with real approachable conversations?
mhm,
That's that when people are stressed out about someone, it's like, okay, so what are you doing to make this better? Did you make time to have the conversation? Like, or like I said, like I overly stretched myself with like pet with just so much in the beginning, and now I'm like, now I know that I can't.
mhm,
Um, and then give yourself grace for what you know and have done, and always be open to growth for yourself when being stretched. Evaluate you, set a new tone, or recalibrate, and be okay if it's just not working out.
mhm, hmm,
Be okay if it's just not working out. And if it's just not working out, like with a stylist, then it's so much better to, like, in a relationship, you just let them know early on, you know? Like, if it's not
Hmm.
working out, then that's fine. Then just let them know. That way they can find something else. Sometimes people are holding on for the wrong reasons.
Hmm.
And if they think that you're giving them a shot, like, what are they like in the long run? Like, as an entrepreneur and as it is our business, we are the winners. That sounds really bad, but like we are the prize. Like, they should also want to have us as their boss too, because they have
Hmm.
seen what our like culture and life and vibe is like. So when we are not so desperate to just get someone in, I think it's important to really stay true, but also be flexible. It's important to be flexible,
Hmm.
but also don't self abandon like who you are and who your business is, because you're the one who built it. No one's going to take care of it like you do. And if you don't, find the ones that are going to at least make it look like they will for a while. When you realize that something's off, have the conversation,
Hmm.
because
So
it's
there's a
not
part.
confrontational.
Yeah.
It's just real and raw, and it's necessary.
Sure. Well, you have to have courage, right? I mean, it's really what you have to have the courageous conversations so that you can protect your asset as the business owner and your team. I mean, and the culture. And I think that's something that for people pleasing people, that's really hard, right? Like, and at the same time, it's so vital because you you have to protect, the thing that you built. And it's interesting. I write when I come across a quote or an idea, I'll write it on like a note card and stick it on my office wall here. And one of them is, if the vision or goal isn't happening, change the method, not the vision. And what you said is it's okay to realize something isn't working out, but doesn't mean your vision didn't change, but how I'm trying to accomplish that may need to change. The method may need to change.
Yeah, like I realized that the nail area in the salon wasn't working anymore. So I got rid of my pedicure chairs. I have space to build out more rooms if I want to add more people in rooms. Like, it doesn't have to, the vision will still stay hybrid, but it doesn't necessarily have to, and spa can look different
Hmm.
because it's your business. You get to do whatever you want. But people want to let other people have the reins of that. And I remember early on, someone wanted to put like a little beach hammock out in my front area for their decoration, and I'm like, I'm sorry, who dubbed you the new artist to be able to decorate things out here?
Yeah. It's like this is my space.
Uh,
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for doing this interview. It's like I said, I love what you're doing. I love the journey you're on. I love what it's been fun watching you grow as a person as your business has grown. And so I really just thank you for giving us the time to share your journey and the lessons you've learned. I hope people really understand that investing in others is extremely valuable, not just long term to your business, but it's a great way to be a human being, I think. Like you're saying, I want to make sure you are successful. And whether you stay with me a year, 5 years, 20 years, I want to pour into you. And I don't think you can lose that way, honestly. Right. I think it's an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset.
yes, abundance mindset. Yes, most definitely. And it is stressful, but you know what? The stress is worth it to just take someone under your wing and invest in them, and also just make sure you're taking care of yourself at the same time,
Mm.
because both of those are very important in order to do it well. Thank you so much, Chris. This has been so much fun. I can't wait to listen
I
to
know
it.
that. Yeah. Well, I always love to listen to these interviews later. And I'm like, because when you're in the moment here recording it, you're like, well, I think there was something there that I need to listen to again. So, but awesome. Well, thanks, Sarah. And folks, just I encourage you, I challenge you to really take on this idea of being a trainable or a training model leader where you're looking at how do you help people get better and whatever it is that you're doing. So, um, I look forward to connect with you guys next time. And Sarah, thanks again.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you. So much fun.